Spike Lee's latest film, Highest to Lowest, reimagining of Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece, High and Low. Does it live up to other adaptations, or Spike Lee failed once again at an English language remake? Let's break down the two.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
One of the worst performances of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Son of a bitch. He stole my life.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
So let's start with Kurosawa's version, a loose adaptation of the novel, which is a novel written by Evan Hunter's King's Ransom, and it's part of a long series of cop film or cop books working in a fictional city, which is modeled on Manhattan actually, so it kind of links to Spike Lee's version, and that centers around a moral dilemma faced by a wealthy man when he's forced to choose between using his wealth to either fulfill a personal ambition or saving the life of a kidnapped child. So all of the adaptations of that book have been pretty similar. Kurosawa does stray away from the source material to kind of render a movie that explores how his own kind of time and place, which is the early '60s Japan. It's a contemporary movie, and he's very troubled about the gap in the rich and the poor in that time in post-war Japan, and he's also very troubled about the kidnappings that are reoccurring in Japan at that time. So it was a very timely movie at the time it was made in the early '60s, and I think it's probably Kurosawa's best film that he ever made in his career. But Daniel, you just watched this for the first time, so I'm going to go over to you first to see what did you think of Kurosawa's High and Low.
Yeah, quite a difficult one for me to talk about because it's so fresh in my mind. I think I watched it 3 days ago. I did really enjoy it. What makes it harder to talk about even more is I didn't love it, I did love it, but I didn't think it was like one of his greats. I ended up giving it a 4, which when you get something that high up in the top 250, it is underrating it. I don't have any key issues with it. It is quite Hitchcockian, I suppose, in structure, especially that beginning. With the very screenplay heavy, with the conversations with the police and over the phone. And another thing about me is I'm not huge into Hitchcock either. So I think that did probably, for my preferences, weigh it down a little bit. And I'm also not used to seeing this from Kurosawa. I know the vast majority of his career was like samurai epics and that sort of time period. So I didn't even recognize Mifune in this until like an hour in. I just did not know that was him because I'm used to him like running around as like a crazy samurai, but in this he was so like slick looking and really like blended in. And then the second half, I think I enjoyed even more, to be honest. The slow like crime procedural is not the direction I thought it was going to take. I thought the whole film was going to be potentially even one location because I knew nothing about this at all. Um, but I was pleasantly surprised that it sort of moves away from the main cast of characters and it turns into this sprawling like investigation. And then structurally, it's really sound because in the middle you have that train sequence, which I think is some of the heights of both films we're talking about. To be honest, I think that's one aspect without going too much into it that Spike Lee was quite good at developing in a modern setting. And then yeah, the like blocking and things like that, like the reflection in the kidnapper's glasses, is like really flexing with that sort of philosophy of like design. There's a few really good shots for that. There's the pink signal in the smokestack, like a literal indicator of the evidence. I don't know. I thought it was very good, but just for my taste, quite different to what I'm used to from Kurosawa. But I think it's one you'd appreciate more on rewatch. I've seen a lot of people rewatching this and enjoying it even more.
Yeah, I think for me, I guess I was kind of one of those people. I still absolutely loved it. Can't remember the first time I watched this. I think it was 2023. And I think on the second watch, I think it is more the filmmaking aspects that I had come to appreciate so much more this time round. And BFI, I think, did a restoration recently, which is the Blu-ray that I got, which is wonderful. Is there? I know the Criterion 4K just came out. I don't know if they're doing a 4K over here. Um, but I think this is without a doubt his best film. Maybe beforehand I would have said Ran or Seven Samurai, but there is just something about watching a master be um, so finely tuned in his craft. Like I don't think I've ever seen such precision in any filmmaking ever, and the staging is incredible. It feels almost theatrical and put on how perfectly placed everyone is in every frame. It's interesting. I didn't realize how, in essence, timely this was to Japan at the time when you brought it up, with the kidnappings and everything, which I think is really interesting. Because I think timeliness can sometimes uh, be a bad thing in a sense. Some people, I guess, in maybe more speaking contemporary films now, timeliness is something that can be just used to mask some films' superficial nature, which I think does happen a lot. But when I was watched it again, I couldn't help but be drawn to uh, Parasite, which I think Bong takes from this film, in particular the kind of motifs of the two houses and like them being geographically higher up in the city and kind of looking over everyone else. But I think what I didn't like about Parasite is I think it's such a binary film. There's only really two opposites, kind of the rich and the poor, and I think Kurosawa does this kind of social ladder and geopolitics in much more um, detailed way. We as the film goes on, we're kind of moving down this status from this kind of rich house, and then we kind of get to, as we go on, it kind of falls down in, we're kind of centered around the cops, and then kind of into the journalists, and then right at the end it's kind of the reveal of the antagonist, and it's all these kind of uh, drug addict junkie areas that we're kind of wading through. And I think that is in itself, just the locations and the structure of the film is so wonderful, and the way he kind of uses that. And I think there's a lot more, uh, despite him having such calculated compositions, there's not so much kind of tight knit precision in his themes. I think there's a lot of ambiguity and a lot of breathing room with these kind of social structures that he's depicting. Whereas I think something like Parasite is quite um, precise not for its own good, in how it conveys these social structures, which I think in that film is fairly hollow. Um, but I was just every time I'm just mind blown by every frame in this film, and I'm sure we'll get into uh, some of our favorite sequences. But yeah, I think it's a masterpiece, really. And I'm always going to be skeptical when a film of this stature gets remade, but I don't know why I had any doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I don't agree about Parasite, but I agree that this is a masterpiece. And I think the point about it being timely is it's interesting because it is very timely, but it's also very timeless, and we'll get into that later on.
Mm,
With the way Spike Lee's adapted this story. But yeah, it was used a lot of to actually get the rules changed for the sentencing against kidnappings at the time in Japan. And there was actually kidnappings that happened, well, basically because of this movie. And there was a man who kidnapped and killed a child, and then said that he watched this movie 10 days before he committed the crime. It was a big thing. Kurosawa even got phone calls threatening his own children after this movie came out. It was very very controversial and timely movie. But I think this is his best film as well. I agree. There really is that like kind of like Ikuru Ran Seven Samurai like kind of tier that's above. Maybe even Dersu Azula. I would put in that tier maybe. But I think I'm pretty certain that High and Low is my favorite now after rewatching it a couple of times, and it really is. It's quite far into his career, but there's a lot of time after it. But he's really kind of mastered his craft, and the blocking in this is some of the best ever. And I think what Daniel was saying about how the way this is structured, I think that's one of the most interesting things about this movie is the way it's structured, the kind of way he goes against what you expect, kind of goes away the what you'd expect with the movie stars in this movie. Like Toshiro Mifune isn't in the second half of this movie, and that must have been completely shocking at the time, considering those two were like the biggest pairings together. It's kind of like Spike Lee and Denzel Washington, and then imagine Denzel wasn't in the second half of Spike Lee's remake. It's kind of like that at the time in terms of the power of the movie star in it. But I think Kurosawa was kind of one of the most interesting structurally with his narratives about his career. And like Seven Samurai and Rashomon are like the most copied and reimagined like storytelling like structures ever. And I think the way that he does it in this is so interesting as well. The fact that he's got a 2.5 hour movie and it's kind of so stylistically and so kind of different, and there's so many kind of genres in there throughout a 2.5 hour movie, and it's constantly freshening it up is so amazing. I think the first hour being this like incredibly choreographed one location film where every dramatic moment, every camera movement, and kind of placement of actors is so fine tuned to perfection. He's at the peak of his craft. There isn't. I don't know if there's a better example of blocking actors really, outside of maybe like Spielberg or Sidney Lumet in 12 Angry Men. It's kind of up to those levels. I don't know if anybody apart from 12 Angry Men I can think of has blocked so many actors in one room in so many different ways and made it so interestingly, like through an hour. It's pretty much its own movie, that first hour, which is very Hitchcock, like Daniel said. And it's all kind of centered around this Toshiro Mifune performance, who brilliantly commands the screen with his presence, but it's also him playing a very different, less subtle character compared to his other collaborations with Kurosawa. It's you never leave this house, but you are aware of the outside world. I love that, like high and low, like you're saying, comparison. And it's, I think the Japanese translation is heaven and hell, so it's even more extreme from their translation compared to the English one. But you're still always aware of the outside world because of the living room. He's kind of surrounded by glass windows, and you're always aware of the outside world, but it's never intrudes too much during that first hour. The city is like a character almost in the film, which is I think is really effectively shown with that opening, because it's kind of like Rear Window, with the opening credits, and you're kind of seeing the city before you even introduce any characters, and it's kind of similar to that where you're going through the main character Gondo's POV as he looks down the window, like looking down on the city from this giant window inside his apartment, and it's yeah, it really reminded me of Hitchcock, including a lot of stuff after that in the movie. But it's a setup that I think is really does a good job of creating this like voyeuristic suspense throughout these opening scenes. And even though you don't see who the kidnapper is until later on, I think it really sets it up so well during that opening scene. And the rest of the film, like Daniel was saying, is so exciting. There's really nothing I would say is it's kind of a perfect movie. Really, I think this is Kurosawa's best film.
We were talking about like Parasite. I think that's a fair comparison. You mentioned like favorite scenes. I think my favorite scene, probably the final scene, is definitely one of them from like a dialogue standpoint. With the glass in between the both of them when he's visiting him in prison, and you know the criminal slowly starts to break down. At first he's calm, and then he goes into like a massive ramble and completely loses it. And there is sort of a justification for all that. There is justice is delivered at the end, but it's like left ambiguous with like the class tension stuff, because there's no peace like in the long term either. For like both the characters aren't going to be at peace from this, and then like in the broader spectrum of like society, this is an issue that could keep repeating itself. Gondo has like all the integrity in that scene, but he still has privilege, and that's what leads the kidnapper to do what he does, is the privilege and the wealth disparity. Again, I'm not going to go into it yet, but that's a big flaw. I think with the Spike Lee version, because they have an okay version of that scene, but then there's like a whole other scene after, and it completely kills the like whatever emotional impact that has. I think this is a really good choice to end it on like a slightly sour note, even though it's like a for Gondo as a character, it's like a good ending. But in the grand scheme of things, it does leave like an uneasiness to the film, which I did enjoy a lot.
That's interesting because I think it sounds like you guys were wanting an exact shot for shot remake. And that's what it you're so hard stuck comparing the two films. And I think right from the beginning, Spike Lee kind of completely separates them. And I know we'll get into this more later after we've discussed High and Low, but I really don't see there's like so much point in hammering the two together and having them back and forth comparisons, because I think they are completely different entities in some way. And obviously, I know like remake or whatever, but it genuinely sounds like you guys were wanting like the exact same thing.
I don't agree that it's a separate entity until like halfway through Spike's version. I think that it's just like an entirely inferior version up to the train scene. But um, I don't want to get into that now. I'll leave it. But I think I think I am right in saying that that final scene, even in a standalone film that like had no ties to highest to lowest, high and low, just felt really weird and out of place and sort of
No,
tonally. I just don't think it worked
what?
tonally compared to the rest of the film.
I disagree completely, but we'll get into that later. But um, I think the way Kurosawa is kind of constantly kind of contextualizing like positions. So you've got um, the lead businessman, and obviously there's the class disparity between him not wanting to pay um, for the chauffeur's son. His ransom, and then you've got kind of that, and then we fall down a bit and we see kind of the mass public. Once he's kind of paid off that and he's got no money left, they start to feel sympathetic for him, and in it we've got this like really big clash of morals between kind of the public, and then we've got the journalists and the police as well, and it all kind of blends into this really melting pot of kind of conflicting ideologies, and where this kind of um, where these kind of capitalist kind of leaders sit. And even for a man so high up, like there's still people above, and we see like his kind of investors and things like that are all starting to get really angry, and all the other people at the company and want to kick him out. And still then there's this state of sympathy that so many are feeling for him, which is I still is kind of scary timely, the amount of people that have such care for these kind of capitalistic rich kind of figures, no matter what. And yeah, I find those sections just really fascinating. And like I was talking about kind of the way that Kurosawa stages this, in comparison, I guess I want to make a comparison to Highest to Lowest. That film I think is incredibly theatrical, kind of performance wise, which I love. And then there's something that Kurosawa does with his blocking that makes it feel theatrical, but not through his performances, but from the way he shoots and his compositions. And I really like the kind of that shift in a way that Spike Lee made. Um, um, and he was never going to match the level of kind of, I guess, calculated compositions in a way, and he never really tries to. Like it's completely its own thing in that sense. But um, yeah, it's and I never had the thought in my mind that Lee was ever going to get onto the level of this film, but what he managed to do, I still found completely fascinating. And there is so many memorable sequences in this film, but I think for me, The best sequence is from a blocking standpoint. The shot itself doesn't out of context. You don't really know where you're looking, but which is why I think it's even better. But in the last act, there's we're moving through the city. We get into this bar sequence, and it's probably the shot with the most people in. It is a crowd, a sea of people, and yet you know exactly where to look. There's you got like the undercover like detectives and the people they're after. The eyes just every now just glancing in the camera out of a sea of people, and you know exactly where to look, and exactly where everyone is. And just like as a still, like without context, in essence you wouldn't really know what is where and who is what. And every time that scene we cut back to that shot in the film, I and my mind is blown. It is they are everyone is kind of positioned in a way, and the eyes of all the people we're focusing on are just about visible every now and again, and it is extraordinary. Extraordinary. And yeah, it makes me so happy every time. And it's just
It,
it's
it's so incredible, some of the shots of this movie. The way it almost like imitates deep focus, but it's just like a medium focus because of how long his lenses are, and he gets all these like it's like in the first section as well. Like you have all these characters like standing in the background as well. Like you notice,
mm,
that club scene is incredible. It's even sometimes like the people trailing him kind of get lost in because there's no like focus on like one character. It's kind of just everybody's pushed into the frame and like it's so compact. I love that scene so much. There's a very big difference between the two movies, and that being like the kind of halfway point. In High and Low, Mifune is kind of just pushed to the side, and he's left in his house to kind of just like grieve the money that he's lost. I think that's, like I said, there's a really interesting choice because it kind of just goes against your expectations of having the biggest movie star and pushing him away. And then Tetsuya Nakadai is like the main detective. Him and a couple of other Kurosawa regulars kind of take over. In his own right, he's kind of, I think he's one of he's maybe my favorite Japanese actor.
I
Up there
agree.
with Mifune, and it kind of turns into this procedural drama. Less of a who done it though that you'd expect. It's more of a why he done it, and the kind of
Mm,
journey of them trying to discover and find them and using all the clues of the son. Um, and that in Kurosawa also like he made like reveals the kidnapper to you, which is an interesting approach to that kind of story. Instead of you're not trying to find them along with the police.
mm,
Um, yeah, and that section even has some of the best scenes in the film, like Daniel was saying, the smoke, like Kurosawa's first use of color, in that moment. He's still playing around with the way he shoots in black and white, like you were saying with that club scene towards the end. It's like going like full noir, and it's very expressionistic. The shadows he's using in that, especially there's that iconic like glass shot or glasses shot when he's coming out of the bushes. I love that. Or when they finally catch him and like the shadows are over him. Visually, it's so different from the first half of the movie. It's like it's crazy how many times he switches up what he's doing
mm.
stylistically in this movie. It's hard to choose what the best scene is.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of even though in that first hour he's shooting in this kind of apartment, there's a still I think quite a sense of freedom and
Mm.
looseness to the way he shoots. Like it's quite expansive, the how open this house is, and I find the back half to be quite claustrophobic. And even the way he shoots, you can just feel the that kind of level of geopolitics. Like it feels lower down. Like physically, the frames feel that way in comparison to the first half, which feels a lot more open ed and higher up. That kind of I love the middle train sequence because it really is that middle ground to this ladder that just starts to slip down after that moment. And I think it's a really great point of shifting kind of tone and narrative. And like you were saying, when we kind of have our antagonist revealed, that's I think that's it just goes against so many kind of preordained kind of narrative thoughts and just cliches, and it's so subversive, but it just lays so much groundwork for what Kurosawa really wants um in this film. and it's got nothing to do with the identity of the person necessarily. And yeah, it makes me so giddy just thinking about this film all the time, and the amount of memorable shots and sequences. But yeah, it's just wonderful.
It's probably his most like unconventional from me from a first viewing experience, even though it's such in comparison to something like Ran or I don't know, Seven Samurai. It's way more scaled back. It's like you said, it's never subverted my expectations like this has, because I really did think this was going to be a very slow, dialogue heavy, um, within the house sort of film. I didn't expect the kidnapper to be revealed at all, to be honest. I really like the first glimpse you get of his like associates on the train when I think the camera goes handheld and it like zooms
Hmm.
past and you just see them. That's quite eerie. I quite enjoyed that. And then yeah, they make him they make him someone who, due to the circumstances, you can sort of understand but not particularly empathize with. And I think the like heroine, like I think it was heroine. That whole subplot is like a really tragic twist on that class disparity we were talking about as well. Um, so in the way like antagonists go, I think um, probably the best antagonist as well that I've seen from a Kurosawa film. Because in his samurai films, no one's particularly um, a great person because of the way the samurai code is, but um, this doesn't do good versus evil, I don't think, even though um, what he's done is very morally wrong, the antagonist, and it's sort of the high and low is like the perfect descriptor for the whole film, especially like you said with the shots. It does feel like there's a disparity even now the way the film looks. So yes, I think when I watch this again, because I do want to go through a lot of his films again, um, it'll probably go up to a 4.5 or a 5, to be honest, once I can appreciate it more.
Yeah, I think there's a real sense of order, like dissection of order and values in Kurosawa's work, and this is kind of the point in his career. Wait, was Ikaru before or after this?
I think before,
It was before. That was 52, so 10 years before this.
yeah,
Oh wow, 11 years before actually. That's crazy. But no, but I think he there's this dissection where he kind of moves between the kind of samurai era and contemporary, between positions in class, and the fact that he can move between period pieces and contemporary settings and have his commentary be so fluid and not just timely in a way that is superficial, but in a way, like you said, Ryan, that ends up being timeless. And that's not just because he's well researched and the political kind of agenda hasn't really shifted on from those times. It's genuinely reflected in a way that is nuanced without being kind of just shallow, or here's what's happening now and I'm just going to make a film about it. It is quite incredible, and yeah, like I said, this sense of interrogation into the order of Japanese society is really one of a kind.
Yeah, I guess some of the stuff he's exploring isn't too far away from the old timey kind of samurai traditions, because he's kind of doing that like predatory approach of trying to like overtake someone, or it's kind of like trying to overtake someone's kingdom in Ran, but like in a business
Mm.
sense. So he's kind of doing the same ideas to begin with, but yeah, I think his 40s stuff is contemporary Japan, but this was his very last film that I think was set just in real time that was made. I think the last time in his career. So yeah, it's really unique in his filmography. I need to watch some of his earlier stuff to check out what that was like. I think also that was also some cop procedurals. So interested to see what that's like. But um, I think it's his best 5 out of 5. What do you have it rated?
4, high 4.
Five. Masterpiece.
Nice. Let's go on to Spike Lee's remake, Highest to Lowest. So yeah, I've recently watched a lot of Spike Lee films, partly in preparation for this, just partly because I also just started to really love some of his deeper cut movies. He's got so many movies that I'd say are kind of underappreciated. Even his classics, I guess, don't have a lot of logs like Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing. I think Do the Right Thing has like 600K on Letterboxd, which is quite low considering how well renowned that movie is. Malcolm X like 200 or something as well. But a lot of his great films have like 50K logs, which I think more people should check out the rest of his filmography. There was a tweet going about a couple of weeks ago that I seen, and it's that he's more of a mascot for movies more than a filmmaker, and I think
Well,
that is.
he's not exactly like he's probably not someone the big execs enjoy dealing with. His whole personality is quite standoffish, and yeah, he's never like you said. The mainstream ones are probably just Do the Right Thing and Black Klansman. I don't think. I know Inside Man and Malcolm
Mm.
X are well liked, but I don't think they're mainstream films. Going
Malcolm
off the
X is
people I
mainstream.
know, I wouldn't call Malcolm X mainstream, but maybe it is.
I
I'd
think they're
argue.
appreciated in states like New York and stuff. Like he's a really huge
I'd
filmmaker.
argue Malcolm X is more mainstream than Do the Right Thing.
Maybe like from a filmmaking, like it's more conventional. But I'm just going off the people I know who watch like a modest amount of films. But you're probably right. They're probably his big three.
Do the
I
Right
think
Thing
there's
should be like
some.
an IMDb banger. Like I don't get how that's not like you'd expect that to be like the most popular movie.
I feel like Inside Man is a film a lot of people know, but they don't know it's directed by Spike Lee.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
until I watched it. To be honest, I thought it was like a Tony Scott film. I'm not gonna lie.
It has got that kind of aura to it. It has. But anyway, you guys are all wrong. This is an absolutely fantastic film and exactly what a remake should look like. Like in the first few words, Denzel literally says, "It's not a risk, it's a rebirth." Completely aligned to what Spike is trying to do with this film. You know, he said it a lot of times. He wants this to be a reimagining rather than a remake, which I think it absolutely is. And there's hardly even a bother in putting these two films in the same breath because I don't think Spike is trying to even do that. And people have so much to say about like there's slanderous things about this film's first act and the score. I, for one, thought the score was absolutely brilliant. There's, like I said, there's this level of theatricality that High and Low has through its compositions, and I think Spike Lee brings this kind of theatrical sense with the score and the performances that kind of encompass it. And I think it has this whole kind of sense of life brought to it through that score, which is incredibly adventurous. And I know some people say it sounds like some RPG fantasy score from a video game. I still love it. I still think it's brilliant, and it is obviously titled highest to lowest. I like I there's just something so satisfying about having the number two instead of the words. I think it just fits Spike Lee's kind of ethos so much better, and different in a way because I feel like High and Low is just kind of it has these kind of two things, and Spike is kind of looking at the kind of transition between the two, going from the highest point to the lowest, and in it we it's kind of it's a metatextual film, reflection on Spike as an artist, but it in a way it could be seen as kind of self-proclaimed arrogance. But I think there's something so fascinating about watching a filmmaker coming to terms with his own past career and his place in the current landscape. And Highest to Lowest is exactly that film. You know, he kind of sees himself in this Denzel's character David King as this kind of former kind of glorious figure in the arts who's kind of um, who has fallen down not because of his own ability, but because of this kind of capitalistic environment that is taking over and causing so much damage to New York and the many colliding cultures that that it has. And Spike kind of makes New York the very kind of prominent figure of this film. You know, we kind of open with these glorious wide shots and actually very well used digital backdrops at times of New York, which I thought looked really, really great. And yeah, he makes that abundantly clear. And I know the term late style gets dropped around a lot, but I feel like this is kind of a transition and kind of explosion into the wonderful weirdness of what that era of filmmaking can bring. And I love how weird this film is. I think it's brilliant.
So earlier you said not to mention. I'm trying to compare them too much. I think in my review I do the opposite. I acknowledged in my very short letterbox review that I don't expect Spike Lee to, for the second half of the film, of all directors, to focus on like the perspective of the cops and their like procedural figuring out of what's going on. I just think the direction he takes it. I mean, this was hyperbolic in my review because I was trying to be funny, but Denzel doing like the one man army, like Tony Scott, I'm going to solve this case. I thought it was so like such an uninteresting like adaptation of how to do that, and I know a lot of people are praising what's his name, ASAP Rocky. I don't think he was that great. I think he
It's
was.
good. I like him.
He had
He's
like
good.
he had screen presence.
It
I'll give
wasn't
him
bad.
that, but he wasn't amazing.
I
Denzel is
like him.
amazing, and I'm very glad that's a diversion from the original where they like go away from Mifune. This film needed to keep Denzel like on screen, and they do. But the way they like treat his character, I'm not a huge fan of. And then that score, I cannot defend that score in that opening. It might be the
Ooh,
worst
It's
score of
it's
the
tones.
year.
good. Oh,
It's like
come on,
it's not a
man.
fantasy game score. It's like a Hallmark like comedy
You guys,
romance. Like it is
puntily,
awful.
puntily.
I like the
It's
score. I like.
I don't. It's
Thank
so
you, Ryan.
distracting. It went on for like an hour unbreaking. It's so distracting. I think that first half is shocking, and I really do think he's just trying to replicate the feel of High and Low. So I think it is fair to compare in those. I know there's some diversions, but yeah, some of the cops acting is some of the worst of the year as well.
It,
They
it
are
reminds
they
me
are
of Spike
terrible.
Lee's He's
Dean
Got Game,
Winters.
where I don't know if Spike Lee can direct or get a good performance out of someone that isn't a good actor. I think I'm starting to notice that because He Got Game, everybody is terrible in that, but apart from Denzel, and it's kind of like the same scenario in this. Denzel was like carrying the whole ensemble.
He definitely Jeffrey Wright even is like fine.
Definitely, it's okay. Yeah,
He's okay. I just think the cops
Film.
are
Jeffrey
terrible.
Wright's great. What do you? Dean Winters is fun. Is so stupid. He's
Dean
so
Winters is
stupid.
Dean Winters thinks he's in like a different film, like he's trying to play like a racist cop and do the right thing. I don't know
That's
what.
exactly why it's so funny. Spike just like uses them as just this punching bag of all of this kind of the racial injustices in a sense, and I find it so funny how blunt and obvious it is about what he's doing, and it makes me crack up every time how obviously stupid his character is, but in a sense it's almost it has a tiny bit of realism to it, but yeah, I don't know what to say. I think this is such an interesting critique on the way um art has become so hollowed out for
I agree. The,
money
the film
and
is hollow.
AI. Oh, shut up, man, shut up. No, it's it's not hollow. How it's Spike Lee
The
coming
rage
to
bit.
terms with himself. It's so good.
It has nothing
And
to say.
shut up. That is.
I'm
Shut
so
up. It
glad
has.
you're having to do a 1v2 for once. It's usually us defending a film.
Yeah, it's that's crazy.
Why
He
did
need
he remake this movie?
Who know? But it's not like a. This would be. It's not. But I find it so fascinating. Is I think people are being so dismissive of it. And
But I don't
uh,
want to. I want to love the Spike Lee movie. I'm not just like
Yeah,
coming in at
so
the remake. Like
every rating I've given Spike Lee before this was 4 and up. I hate that I've given this a 2. I think it's like bottom 7 of the year from what I've seen. I really did not like it,
oh
but
my goodness.
I do not take any
Late style
enjoyment from that.
deniers. Late style deniers.
lifestyle
Crazy.
is only used when something's bad. You don't.
No, it's. I saw that
It
tweet. I
is.
saw that tweet. I saw that tweet. I
You
saw
don't
that
come
tweet.
out like
No,
you don't.
late
Nobody
style
comes
is
out of a
not bad.
Scorsese movie and calls it late style. Like
No, late style is not characterized by copium for bad. Late style is
wait,
categorized by
what?
weirdness. Late style is categorized by weirdness, not how bad it is.
Yeah, but what is weird about this is a Spike Lee movie. He's always been experimenting with stuff like since the
True,
90s.
but there's such a weird energy to everything. We've got that music video, the brilliant music video
I
sequence.
hate that. I hate that so much.
It's that like split screen shot of where it kind of goes like the ultra wide, like
It looked
in the
cool.
prison cell
Yeah.
at the end. That music video sequence is so good, with the dollies, the kind of like partial bisexual lighting. That song is an absolute banger, by the way. And we've got the kind of switches between film and digital halfway through, where he kind of pulls the directional rug right from beneath us. And there's just these moments where no matter what is happening on top of all this, the kind of kidnapping plots, ransoms, and money, there's still this kind of beating cultural heart to the city, as we kind of that is being cut back between. And was that almost? It's interesting because Anthony Ramos appears as himself. It's like it's almost like this like documentary, like in a sense, the way Spike is kind of observing this scene.
Yeah, kind of.
And I found that it's so wonderful. And it's so frenetic. There's complete opposite of the still calculated compositions that Kurosawa was going for. And I know I'm being a hypocrite drawing comparisons, but I think this is vastly different in a way that isn't just being different for the sake of it. I think there's so much going on with the meta reflections and the kind of attacks on AI. And yes, it can be blunt, but I think it is the good kind of blunt. And yeah, I don't know what to say. I had a wonderful time with this. I found it such a joy to see Spike kind of just going crazy with everything. And yeah, just brilliant.
I do agree that I love that scene, the Puerto Rican moment, like halfway through the movie, and that's when it comes to life because it's just unfortunate that it takes Spike Lee like an hour to wake up from behind the camera, and it's like it is it's see the phone call scene is one of the worst scenes in his filmography. It is so bad.
Phone call
I was
scene.
generally
Which scene? Which scene are you
the
talking
phone call
about?
scene
Um,
when the kidnapper calls to tell him that he's
oh,
kidnapped.
nah. What are you talking about?
That's
You guys.
atrocious. That's when the score is really bad.
No, it's good. It's so good. I love how overly dramatic everything is. It's brilliant. It's so good.
It feels like they watched Kurosawa's movie and then Spike just went, right, go like reenact this like off the riff.
It's
And it was like all
overstimulated.
improvised.
I was overstimulated. Like 50 cops walk in and they're all acting really awful, and then the
It
music's playing
feels
in the background.
improvised, like from the camera movements, the acting, the score that's just randomly placed over it.
That's the
And
worst
then
part of the film by a mile. That like
yeah,
first hour.
uh-huh. But there's a clear
Really?
like change, like you were saying, like Oscar, like there's a moment wherein he gets one of the cops to do the classic like Spike Lee like double dolly, and he's like explaining like the plan for what he's gonna do for the exchange, and that's when the movie does liven up, and he switches to the 16mm, and I that
Right
is my
from the
favorite.
off. There's life throughout this
Yeah,
entire film. You are
there's
chatting
actual
rubbish.
compositions.
Shut up. There is some. There is life throughout every part of this film, and it's I've seen people saying the first half of this film was purposely bad. I wouldn't, because it's not bad. But it's like
I feel no, but genuinely, I think it might be just because so that scene feels
He's-
good or like really good in comparison. Like I was
Oh,
generally
shut
considering
up.
that. Like, does he make the first half bad on purpose? Like
No.
genuinely.
It's not bad. I still think it's good, but I think it's stricter than the last couple acts. But I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I still found the melodrama to be so engaging and unique. That is just completely not what I was expecting. But yeah, I think you guys are crazy.
I think you're crazy. I mean, the melodrama's awful in that first bit.
It's so
I
funny.
think it gets like it really. I think the train sequence is fun. I liked that.
Mhm.
Fun.
Then
Fun.
it's
Just
fun.
fun.
It's fun. Yeah, because the first hour like put me to sleep, so I liked a bit of fun, and then that it's like something flipped in my brain. I like snaps a little bit with that music video that you were like hyping up. It is quite like cool to look at, but I was really tired. I was like, this is just nonsense. I'm just watching nonsense.
Wow. Should have watched it in the cinema. Should have watched it in the cinema.
Hey, if distribution was better, there was like one showing at midday, so I couldn't. But yeah. I don't take any joy in ripping on it because I don't like ripping on films that I don't like that aren't like in any way mean spirited or lazy. It wasn't that. I just didn't enjoy it. I think it was a miss. And Spitely should be banned from touching Asian cinema. I think
Shush. Shut up.
because I'm going
This
to call
is
him
Yeah.
racist.
one of the best remakes of classics I've seen. It's so peculiar in the
Nonsense.
best way possible.
If
It's
he
so
goes,
good.
if he goes free
It's
for
so
free with
odd.
bad Asian remakes, you've got to call him racist. That's
I've not even seen Old Boy. I've not seen Old Boy, but
I
I
haven't.
think
But
this
I'm
is
just
a
believing everyone, to be honest. To be
whoa,
fair,
whoa, whoa, whoa,
I
whoa.
know. For my own opinion, I know. To be fair, the consensus from our like group of we probably have overlap in people we follow. I am the lowest score, and most people are weighing like 3.54 range. I know the average is
Average rating sucks.
2.9,
What's it?
but
2.9.
2.9.
Egregious.
That's fair.
They do not know
right.
ball.
Well, there's
They
more
do not
threes
know
than
ball at all.
3.5.
I just don't think this sits on its own as an own thing when he's constantly
No.
remaking
That's
moments
crazy.
and scenes from the movie. Like it's not shot for shot, but he's generally there's like several moments in this movie where he is just doing the same scene but poorly.
The first half, including the train bit, well, I obviously changes the train bit because it's on a subway, and like the set piece is slightly more grand. But until after that, I think it is fair to say it's like almost the same film, but reinvented.
Deary me.
The
I-
only
Deary
thing
me.
I like this film does is it plays with like social media in a way. Like the kidnapper gets famous from the way that like modern social
Yeah.
media works, where like any press is good press. And it benefits him in the end too. But like the court of public opinion is already used in the original, like we were talking about earlier, like where Gondo decides to like pay the
Yeah, the
ransom because he doesn't want like the
newspapers.
newspapers to put bad word out. So it's so kind of like low hanging fruit that I don't really think I can praise it too much. I don't get like the angle that he like decided to be like, okay, I can remake this like Kurosawa masterpiece. And who is Alan Fox, the writer of this movie? How did he get the
Oh,
job
him.
of adapting
Oh, what was it
Kurosawa's
he
masterpiece
wrote?
for Spike Lee? Who's Alan
He
Fox?
wrote nothing.
He's never done
Yeah, he
Let's have
anything.
a look.
wrote nothing. He looks like
First,
a
that's
model.
impressive, actually. Nice,
Is it?
nice debut. Nice debut. Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. Great debut.
Stinker retired. I'm looking at his IMDb. I can't find any. He's literally done nothing.
That's the first thing he's done. That's great debut, actually.
Nothing. Why?
Pack
How
it
does
up.
that even like happen? Well, he
I don't
needs
know.
to.
I'm really are confused. Is he real?
It looks
Is
like
he
from,
real?
It looks like
Yeah.
his profile picture on Letterboxd looks like a fake like dating profile picture.
It's AI. It's meta.
What advantage would there have? That's crazy.
Maybe it's an AI script.
The first half feels like. I actually,
Denzel was riffing about against AI.
he has the
Like,
best
come
ears in
on.
the business. He has the best ears in the business. They said that like 50 times in the film. What is it? The best ears in the game or something. ASAP Rocky though, that the one like scene I quite like that he recreates is the final
He
confrontation.
recreates it twice because he does it in
Oh,
the
Oh, he does it
music
in the
studio,
recording
oh,
booth as
come
well.
and then he
on, man.
copies
That
the scene
recording
anyway.
They're
scene
having a
is
rap
so
battle
good.
though.
That
Is it?
recording scene is so
Yeah,
good.
that's
That
off the
battle.
that's them riffing. That's not
That
in
is them
this like
riffing.
AI script.
Gondo
That's
doesn't.
so good.
Gondo doesn't do a rap battle in the original. I quite like that scene.
Oh dear.
Yeah, he, do,
That,
he does. He
that
does kind of do it twice, but I don't
yeah.
mind either of them. It's the scene after that I was on about earlier. Why is that?
No, but I would have really liked it if it was just the music studio one instead of in the
Yeah,
prison.
true.
But I think
Or
that's
that
I
make the
think that
decision.
but I think there's the juxtaposition between the two that works so well. That kind of music studio scene where they've put apart their kind of differences in a sense, and everything's being merged together, and they're just two music artists trying to find something in a world that is kind of dominated by money. And then the next scene is the opposite of that. You know, that it's different, like the glass between them is completely different, and they're falling out. And I think the difference between those two scenes is perfectly important to the arc of this film, and I do not get the hate for that.
Let's talk about the end because Daniel brought it up earlier, and I kind of hate it.
Fantastic ending, fantastic ending. What are you doing? What are you
Well,
talking about?
the first one is such a good ending because it kind of Gondo goes through this like transformation where he goes through this like painful process where he has to give his money away, he has to get it back, he doesn't get it back on time, he loses his house, he loses everything he
Stop comparing
owns.
the two, man. Stop comparing the
What do you
two.
mean? It's a remake. What do you mean? Don't Spike
It's
Lee's comparing them.
it's
He's doing
reimagining, man.
there's
You
shot
do-
for
it's
shot
not-
scenes in here.
Yeah, the first half is
There's
almost
two
shot for
different
shot.
things. You're
No,
two
you
different.
can't have the.
I'm talking about a scene that was shot for shot remade. Um and in his movie, it's a happy Hollywood ending where like there's no consequences to anything. He gets his own company by the end where he's signing up and coming artists. He keeps his mansion or skyscraper in this with all his belongings.
Yeah, but that's because
There's no
it's two
consequences.
completely
There's no
different
ambiguous
things.
ending. It's
It's
not
not
good.
necessarily about the rich. It's about the artistic integrity. There is a difference between what this film is trying to do compared to what he's trying to do compared to what Kurosawa is doing in High and Low. There's something um uh, there's something so I find so great about Spike basically saying that he will refuse to shut up for anybody. And that's what I find in this final scene is Spike saying that no matter what is kind of going on in the artistic scene, he will always find a way to project his voice in any manner that he wishes. And it is this voice of influence and intention and integrity that is shining through in the end. And I think that is why less about the disparity, not necessarily so much about the disparity between class structure, but between the hollowness that is in so much of kind of music and art nowadays in comparison to something that is lyrically different. Two completely different thematic approaches, and I do not know why there is any bother in comparing. And yeah,
But
I
it's just it's,
he,
fair enough, but it doesn't work because I don't think it is as interesting as a movie. Like ASAP Rocky just kind of explains away everything of why he like done this whole thing, and in the first one, it's like this ambiguous, like there's no explanation behind it, and it's really just that's the frustration behind it. Is like there's more questions than answers by the end of the original, and this one they kind of just have two conversations where ASAP Rocky explains why he just sent his music to Denzel, and Denzel didn't listen to it, and that's the cause of everything that happened in this movie. Like it's not an interesting
I still think you're too
like
tied onto
antagonist
the
and
original.
protagonist.
Nah, you can't have the balls to remake an Asian classic. And then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't compare
you can have your cake and eat it.
and also the first you're not. It is so similar, like the majority of the film. I know he diverts, but you can still
Yeah,
compare.
I'm not saying that, but I think there's a difference. I think there is a genuine difference between his approach to this as a reimagining. Obviously, like narratively, it follows those same beats, but there is so much more, and so obviously it follows that, but there's so much more behind that that is completely different about the way we're moving along this narrative, which yes is similar, but that's not what the issue should be. Like obviously we're going to have that. It is technically like a reimagining, but yeah, I just think
I
it's
think
so
there's
much
it,
more
it it
fascinating.
it takes an hour to do what Kurosawa does in 5 minutes, and it's just like these really boring scenes where like, oh, my son goes to basketball practice, and he's trying to make you care about. He's trying to make you care about the son, and like as if like you aren't already going to care about him
No,
being kidnapped. Like there's just these
the only
pointless
reason,
scenes.
The
the only
sun is
reason,
not the point of the film.
the only reason he does all the
There is
basketball
the
stuff
son
is
is the
because
main reason that he even gives the money, because he guilts him and says like, I'm not going to get into college. I'm not going to be able to go on social media or go on with my life. That's like the main guilt like against him, like even giving the money.
the entire reason he sets the baseball thing up is so he can like flex that he hates Boston. I think
That's so
Always-
funny. That is
That's
it
so
always
funny. Yeah.
funny. That just the guy
the guy on the
shouting,
camera
"Alan
just
hates
shouts
Boston,"
it.
the camera.
That's
Brilliant,
the
absolutely
subtlety
brilliant.
you get from Alan Fox's writing.
The James Brown needle drops, absolute perfection, as well. Those are brilliant. Yeah, I don't know
Is
what
that
to
the
say. I
opening?
mean, no, Payback and The Boss. Those are the two songs. It's when they're going to get revenge on young felon when they're in the
Right.
car. Him and Jeffrey Wright, who are riffing.
Yeah. I like most of the music.
Yeah.
For a film about music, I'm probably not touching that soundtrack again. But that is just personal taste, except for that score, which I will die on the hill that might be the
Well,
worst of the year.
James Brown slander, crazy. Those songs are so good.
Chris Rock wrote a script in 2010. I think it would have been better if he just adapted that because Alan Fox
Shut
is
up,
not
man.
cooking. Alan Fox is.
Yeah, he was.
I don't understand what he's cooking. He just copied and
I'm
pasted the
running
whole
out of
thing.
slander.
Oh, game's gone. Game's gone.
Yeah, just
Oh,
it's even like I think like the wife is just like a non-character in this as well. Um, I don't think the chauffeur's done very well. There's such like an interesting dynamic in the original. I know you're saying don't compare the two, but I think like there's such just a lack of like character dynamics in here. Like there's just nothing there between everybody. Like in the original, the wife and the chauffeur are kind of like on both sides of the spectrum, where like you have this moral dilemma of him giving the money for the son, and the outcome that's going to happen to that, and him losing like all these possessions and money, and the way that the wife has never like lived without those things. And I think it's such an interesting dynamic between those two, and it's just kind of nothing's done with it. The only thing that happens in this movie is she has to give her bracelet away, and that's kind of the only defining thing about her character.
I think like in the original or High and Low, the wife's sort of like the moral anchor, like you say, sort of keeps him grounded from this like CEO head he's got on his shoulders. I think the son does it more in this. They have that whole conversation
Mm.
in his bedroom. Yeah, the wife. uh, Maybe I'm wrong, but I only remember like ever discussing money, but not like particularly arguing about it or anything. Jeffrey Wright's much more boisterous in this than the chauffeur in the original, which is it? I know we're not supposed to compare, but that's not a change. That's not a change I find negative anyway. I think giving more autonomy to that character is a good idea. But yeah, you're not wrong. The wife and the police as a whole, to be honest, that's why I think he could have um, gone full on reinvention because the police aren't up so much in that first half either. Yeah, I just don't like the first half as already established.
Yeah, the first half's an hour.
I know
The
it
the
feels
ex-
like
the
it.
money exchange doesn't happen until an hour into the movie.
I think it's the exact same in. It's like almost exactly the same as High and Low.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
not
It's
so
also
cheap
just
to
I think
compare.
I think it's just Spike Lee's least visually interesting movie as well.
I don't think it really adding on the insults. I don't think there's anything particularly interesting
It's
looking
annoying. It's
about it.
annoying because
It's
I
like
love
literally
Matthew
could be.
Levity. Like
I'm not going to go straight to streaming level. It's not that bad, but
it is. No, the first half is.
the
But
first
it
half
might
is,
be
but the second
intentionally
half is
making it shit.
really.
But
The second half is like well shot. I thought. He goes Tony Scott on the train. That's really cool.
Like it's like Spike Lee's The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and I don't know how that is. I think that's such a
I like shit as well.
comparison.
Have you seen that?
What, Tony Scott's?
Yeah.
No, I just mean that film. No, more than I haven't even seen Tony Scott's. I've only seen the original.
Yeah. And that's probably another masterpiece that is like destroyed.
Oscar's going mute. The face rate built up too much. So
me.
final word from me in my 2025 rank list. It is in between Materialist and The Monkey. That is the level Alan Fox.
That's worse than anything I said.
You've got this below Materialists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Actually, that is crazy. I might have to drop.
That is
I'm not
tragic.
upping. I'm not
Materialist.
upping the rate.
Materialist is
looks so good compared to this.
materialist. Oh, shut up!
You might have a
man.
point, but I'm
Materialist
not.
is a bombastic biblical stinker.
No,
That
fuck.
film is horrendous. That
Hey,
film is so bad.
we've had two good directors bomb. They can sit next to each other. Celine
This is
Song
a top
did
10 film of the year. And don't let
Alan
anyone
Fox
else tell you
write
otherwise.
Materialists.
It would have been much better if he did.
I would like to see that actually.
Actually,
Spike Lee's Materialist. Spike Lee's Challengers.
Oh dear.
Disappointing.
I'm disappointed.
Not disappointing. Brilliant film. You can go and watch it.
Does Spike Lee have another film lined up? Took him 6 years to make that one.
Yeah,
hopefully.
that was worth the wait.
Shut up. You guys, man.
He's making he might have already made it. A Katrina documentary. He was writing it. No,
Right.
no like fictional films listed on Letterboxd upcoming. 6 years until the Akira remake.
Oh, shut up.
He's just making his way down different Asian.
We had an Ikari
ruining
remake the other
masterpiece.
year, and it was some stupid
Oh yeah.
British
Probably.
thing with living,
Bill
wasn't
Nye,
it? With, Bill Nye, yeah. Like, what are you talking
that's
about?
taken. That's British over
Oh dear.
Stop remaking Kurosawa movies.
Oh, shut up, man.
Yeah, just
remake
leave
the
them.
bad ones.
Remake the bad ones. What Kurosawa movies are
I'm
there?
sure he has like some movies from the 40s that aren't perfect.
Spike
Deary
Lee
me.
Dreams. Spike Lee Dreams would be cool.
Okay, not that one.
That'd be cool.
I would like to see that actually. Get Scorsese in again.
Yeah.
Oh
Spike-
dear.
Wasn't
Spike Lee's Joe
Scorsese
Jumbo.
gonna do this? Wasn't he attached to a Highlander remake? So I
Was
learned.
he?
I
I
made
don't
that
think
up.
so. I think you
Wasn't
made that
familiar
up.
with that.
I made
He
that
would
up.
have produced it, wouldn't he?
I just lie.
Sure.
No. He was. Martin Scorsese, Mike Nichols, and Walter Sellers.
What?
That's according to
Really?
trivia. So take it with a grain of salt.
We were robbed of Scorsese's Highlander.
Mike Nichols,
Believe it or
Highlander.
not.
Oh my god.
So yeah, those are our thoughts on High and Low and Highest to Lowest. Let us know which one you preferred in the comments. And what's your
Highest
favourite Spike Lee movie?
superstar, lowest.
True. We'll be back next week for something else.